Good day, everybody. Welcome to Shepherd's Corner. My name is Deacon Derek Walcott, and you're on our weekly program. Yes, weekly program where we have conversations with Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon. You know, for the last couple of weeks, we've been doing some educational programs with you all. Well, today we will continue on that. But today, we're going to be talking about food security, everyone's concern. Now, forgive me for attacking the Archbishop, because I'm going to attack him now, right? Archbishop G, good evening, good day, good morning. I want to know what's going on. What happened to your garden, right? You're talking about food security.
I want to bring my best, my bulletproof vest for this conversation, Deacon Derek.
Well, I'm to the garden. We're talking food security and it disappeared. What, a Bachak's attack here, what?
No. Better than that. You see, during COVID and the pandemic, it became really clear that food security was a major issue. And so many families were in need in all kinds of different ways. And we looked at it and what should we do? And out of that, a conversation began where we started using different bits of our land for food production and what we would now call food security. We had some land in Valencia. We've used that to grow different crops. The seminary started its own garden and working to become more sustainable. They have chickens with eggs. They have rabbits. They have all kind of root crops and other crops that they're growing. And then my house became a kind of a showpiece where people were able to come and we did planting, and we did a real interesting project here where we started by rehabilitating the land first, and that went on to working with the different crops, and then that went on to teaching people about gardening. Well, what can I say to you? When it came down to it, and we knew that many who usually supported their families weren't able to earn an income.
Yeah.
And they ended up on a breadline needing help. That scariness sent us into the food production side and sent us into the garden here at my house and in the other centers that we had. Chabonas, we also had a center. And what we realized is that the church needed to do two things and do it at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We remember that during COVID, we ramped up the food distribution, and a lot of people received hampers from us.
Yeah.
And also during COVID, we started the garden here at Archbishop's house.
Yeah.
And families came from all over the place to be trained, and many youth started a garden at their home, and we did whatever we could. We shared seeds and technology and how-to, and we did a lot of stuff with the garden here. So that was why we did the garden as a COVID response.
There was a joint CARICOM World Food Program press release, and that was recent. They said an estimated 2.8 million people, or nearly 40% of the population in the English-speaking Caribbean, is food insecure. So I'm seeing this initiative as being timely.
How much?
Timely.
Say that again.
2.8 million people, or nearly 40% of the population in the English-speaking Caribbean, is food insecure. That is a recent press release.
40%.
Yes, that's high.
Very high.
Yeah.
That's very, very high. That's really, really high. So as we looked at the pandemic, as we saw the response, we started not only giving food to people who were in trouble, but we also started helping families to start their own kitchen garden and to start working and understand how to do it, and working together in little groupings sometimes to grow the garden and to make the food security a lot better and a lot more meaningful. So that's kind of why we started and where we went with it. But through that, many families learned how to start kitchen gardens. 25 youth were engaged in the process, and they learned valuable gardening skills. But they also learned how to work as a team, and they learned the dignity of work and the care for God's creation. There's more to the garden than just the distribution of food for those who do not have, which we also did a lot of that. Product from the garden went to many different families. But, you know, that's the real thing. So the group that started the garden here went to 20 different communities where they worked on community gardens. So not only did we do the garden at Archbishop's house, but that was like your school for many other projects that came out of all of this. So can you imagine 20 different communities in Trinidad and Tobago has a food or gardening project that is going on, where we shared local knowledge and materials with the residents of Beetham Gardens. 50 families were involved in that. Members of the Archdiocesan Family Commission in Chaguanas, and many families were involved in that. Families connect to nature, 122 persons were involved in that. Herbs and Health, 91 persons were involved in that. Agri-Plant Food Future, 182 people were involved in that. Maracas Valley had 75 people involved in that process. And the Royal Botanical Butterfly Gardens, we also had a lot of people involved in that. What the garden did was it served as a national symbol, and also it served as a school for agriculture for communities all over Trinidad and Tobago.
Have you seen
that? I think was wonderful.
No, that's great. I mean, I just came back from Pinal, where I did a weekend for Father Robert Christo, who's on, he's on a sabbatical, and he has an amazing project there. I mean, he has a hydroponic setup that he set up that is nearly 100% mechanized. All you have to do is reap and sow, or sow and then reap. It's really, really good. And in discussing it, they said that you can recover your capital expenditure costs in 9 months.
Yeah.
And that is what I found was really, really amazing.
So you could either wait on a baby or you could recover your capital expenditure. Okay,
I like that one. Giving birth.
Giving birth. But what was important for me was to become a national symbol of what we need to do around food. Now, remember that Pope Francis had this beautiful document, Laudato Si. That speaks about our care of creation and also our relationship with creation. And so the gardening project was really a project trying to say, there was a time for grass and a time for flowers and daisies and roses, and there's also a time for food.
Yeah.
And it was really a little plug to the national community. Of course, many people were upset. Oh, you're Magnificent Seven, you can't keep your garden like this, and on and on and on.
You got some pushback. You got some pushback.
The best pushback I got was a reporter who called me and said, listen, our photographer came to take a picture of your garden because somebody called complaining to us. And when he was taking the picture, he said to himself, but this is not bush, this is a garden. And that was actually That was actually the title of his article in Newsday. This is not bush, this is a garden.
Well, that's good. That's great.
So, just as we no longer wear any masks, and just as we no longer doing all the other things we did in COVID, well, the garden is returning to a regular garden for a Magnificent Seven. So we're moving.
Yeah.
We're moving now the food initiative from Archbishop's House to the parishes and the communities around Trinidad and Tobago.
So you're moving it out to the parishes and so on. Was there any thought at all in terms of getting even all the schools, all our Catholic schools involved, both secondary as well as primary?
So we're going piece by piece by piece. We do already have some schools that are involved in production of food. Certainly in Central, we have a couple of schools that have gone that way. And great effect, because when you go around the hydroponics, you could do maths. Yeah. You could do spelling. You could do division and addition. You could do all kinds of different things around the hydroponics. So, it's a great educational tool where you can teach anything from around the hydroponic unit, and several of the teachers have been doing that with great impact on the students.
Great. The CARICOM initiative is to reduce the food import bill by 25% by 2025. So that's what CARICOM wants to do, reduce our food import bill, which is massive, it's huge, by 25% by 2025, and we're in 2023. So in 2 years' time, they're hoping that they would be able to achieve this initiative. So this is a good way of working towards that.
Correct, because food security is a really big deal. I remember in 2006 when I attended the World Urban Forum in Canada. It was the first time that I heard the term food security. Never heard the term before, never thought about it before. When you think security, you think breaking in, you think wrought iron, you think guns, you think all kinds of different things. But food security was a new one for me. And at that forum, it related to nations and communities having access to and control of enough food to secure their citizens if there was ever a crisis. Wow. And we've seen that in COVID.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely something, because, you had all the transportation challenges with getting food inside here. Prices escalated. It was like crazy in terms of food. I remember going into a couple places, to buy food, and you were watching the shelves going down,
And the shelves were emptying out.
Yeah. And some people would panic too,
Yes, and the panic buying.
Yes.
So rather than buying one or 4 or 5 rolls of toilet paper, people were buying bales of toilet paper.
I don't understand that. You don't have food, what you want toilet paper for? That's the question.
That's the panic buying, So with the pandemic, we've seen how easily distribution lines could be disrupted. And we've seen that in all kinds of things. One manufacturer stopped producing chips, and all kinds of manufacturers were held ransom. Yeah. The automobile industry, all kinds of different things that you just not think about were held ransom because one line of chips just came down. Well, that's part of the challenge with your producing of anything and it getting disrupted in something as big as a COVID. If there is a longer, more fundamental disruption, the supply and cost of imports could be seriously affected, and that could have a major impact upon us, because we are small, vulnerable nations. I mean, during COVID, things like ventilators when little countries in the Caribbean tried to buy, they were told no, none for export. They had, in fact, sometimes they bought, and then they were told no, this cannot be exported outside of America. So when you see the disruption in the supply chain, you know that you have to think about security, and you have to think in a very different way. Because if there's a longer, more fundamental disruption, the supply and the cost of imports will be seriously affected. As you know, that's how it is. Because all the prices of imported goods have increased significantly since 2020. Whatever else we've done, we've seen these big rises because of the distribution price, the price of moving goods and services on freight or on air freight, and also because the cost of it has increased itself because of other things in the nation where it's produced.
We really need to work together on this, and I'm glad to see, you know, in your article you're speaking about the church playing an active role in developing these little centers all throughout the Archdiocese of Port of Spain, you know, the length and breadth of Trinidad and Tobago. And I mean, I go back and I think I remember, you know, traveling, you know, between family in Tobago and family in Trinidad. Tobago in my youth days was literally a food basket for Trinidad. You know, a lot of so we were into the sugar cane and that kind of thing, but Tobago supplied us with a lot of our food supply.
A lot of the food.
You know?
So St. Vincent supplies us with a lot of food, and Grenada.
Yeah.
And even before, when places like Balsin and so were still in agriculture, they supplied with a lot of food also.
So,
but
I'm trying to think what really is your strategy, because I see you talked about the community response. You talked about something called the Food Security in Parishes program.
Yes. In that program, we're trying to move ourselves forward, because what we're seeing is that there's such an increase in the prices of everything that we really just have to do the work to help people to supplement their bills. So if you take, I mean, my memory is going to the corner shop many a morning with $1 in my hand, and $1 then bought a loaf of bread and a packet of UHT milk. How much that will cost you now?
Wait. $1 bill was going to get you a loaf of bread and a packet of UHT milk?
45 cents, 55 cents. $1 would get you the loaf of bread and the packet of UHT milk.
Well, so you can't even get a Tambran ball for that price. I'm just letting you know. Not even a Tambran ball.
A salt prunta sack.
Tuna dumplings for $1.
There you go. You know, there was even a time when a $100 bill would buy enough food to feed a family of 4 for a week. I remember my mom sending me and my sister to the grocery as children, and it would be $20-something we'd spend.
You can't spend our blues. That's what? 3 boxes of chicken, 2 boxes of chicken and chips, and 2 Coke.
Yeah. There we go.
Your blues
gone. $100 barely covers a day's supply of food for a family of 4.
Correct. What?
So that's just to tell you the kind of inflation that we've been playing with. And if that's the level of inflation we've been playing with, we have to do something different, because as families experience inflation eating away at their food basket, if they have another way of supplementing the food basket, then it's not going to be crazy. But if they don't see another way to supplement the food basket, then we're going to have serious trouble in this country.
And you know, what we need to know is more and more we are seeing the challenges. We're hearing it. People's salaries are being literally held at a 4%, over the last 4 years. So at a 4%, if you're only going to get a 4% increase in your wages, and we are seeing inflation rising much higher than that, and the cost of food is also rising above that, it's very difficult for families to sustain themselves, especially if you are on a fixed income. So
very much so.
You have to grow your food.
You have to grow the food. And when you consider the oil price, or general inflation, because the higher oil price that we've been having, higher transportation costs because of the oil, together with changing climate conditions. Sometimes you have a flood and all the food is wiped out. And other times you have a dry season with a drought that also kills your food production. So all of these things have made the food more difficult, both to produce and also to sell, so both as a production and as a business. So that really is something that we also have to deal with.
Your question coming in your article says, are we food sustainable, especially in our Caribbean region? Are we food sustainable? And I just gave you some stats there, where we looked at 40% of the English-speaking Caribbean,
yes,
are struggling,
Yes. Well, that's a great question, especially in our Caribbean region. And the truth is, food security begins at home.
Yes.
Food security needs to be everybody's priority. In Trinidad and Tobago and elsewhere in the Caribbean, we make a priority after the event has happened, after we've had the problem, after the horse has bolted out of the stable. We then try to bolt the door and make a pronouncement. But this time, we have to recognize that food security is everybody's food, everybody.
I did, when we were, before the pandemic, when we had breakfast with the deacons, I interviewed 2 guys, and they were so prophetic. They said, they were talking about soil is the new oil. And I found that so fabulous.
Yes.
They said, Deacon Derek, soil is the new oil,
Yes.
And that came before the pandemic. Before anything like that, they were saying, we need to concentrate on this.
Because without the food, there is no way to buffer the poorer people in Trinidad and Tobago. No way. But if we understand that food security begins at home and it is everybody's challenge, then you have to recognize it's your challenge and I have to recognize it's my challenge. And therefore, we've come to a place where if every one of us takes a little more responsibility for the food security in our nation, then we would be in a really great place over the next couple of years.
Do you think it is not difficult? I mean, I've been doing this at home since before I even had children, growing things, doing my little hydroponics and so on. And it works. I remember Gabriel coming and picking sweet peppers straight off of my hydroponic plants and eating sweet peppers off of it. It can work. Even in small spaces. Some people feel that you have to have a lot of land to grow food. You don't. You could do it in your gallery.
No.
You could do it just outside on your steps,
Yes, you could grow food in very, very small places. I've seen a planter that, from the ground came up about 4 feet. So it's a vertical garden.
Yes.
And they have little places where stuff could grow from there, and the nutritions run around the system and are pumped around. But very, very practical, really small. But the amount it would produce is quite incredible.
And I think that also, if you get together with your neighbors and so on, you say, all right, here what? I will grow tomatoes, you grow lettuce,
Correct.
you know, and we can work
Correct.
together like that so that, you
And
know, I
then,
just say, well, if I grow
and then we
tomatoes
will
and
have a
you're growing,
salad.
yeah, we could barter, we
Then
could
we,
share and so on.
then we get a salad.
Yeah,
You see, our societies are modernized to the stage where we have forgotten the basic life skills that we used to have, you know.
yeah.
Growing our own food at home, we forget about it. But, you know, that is a very significant skill that we really have to bring back to people again. There was a time when you did that, and now we too modern, we too this, we too that to do these things. No, we need to do the growing your food at home again and make it really norm for children and the experience of school.
I'm glad you brought up that whole thing about children and getting children involved too, because children, you know, they are amazing. I mean, I remember my daughter and her rearing chickens, and the children getting involved in rearing the chickens. You know, they went to this living water fair, they bought some little chickens, and then they saw them grow up. And yes, get the children involved, you know, so that they then too want to become part of this. Mommy, I want to get involved, you know. I want to get involved in growing food, you know, have their own little kitchen gardens. And I mean, in school, we used to take our little seeds and germinate our seeds and, you know, your little red bean seeds and so on. And we need to do more of that to promote the agriculture. You know, and I think that...
I would say so. I would say so because that is really a move back to the household, back to stability. If you think of how it was before, you know, the household had its own garden. They grew food, and they knew how to do it. The revolution in the world of agriculture makes it even more possible now, as we're talking about the hydroponic garden, the kitchen garden without soil. And as we get the climate smart agricultural methods of hydroponics, aquaponics, and all of these others to demonstrate, we'll realize that, you know, there's so much of what we think, you know, is difficult. It's really not difficult at all. I remember the seminarians running through the hydroponics, and they had one or two batches where they lost their crops for different reasons, and after that they learned really well, very, very quickly. They learned very quickly.
I remember when you were now starting up your garden and so on. Just remember, I brought some of the first seedlings for you. I just want everybody on television to know that I brought him his first set of seedlings. And you go on YouTube. If you go on YouTube, you'll see guys growing sweet potatoes in barrels. Sweet potatoes in barrels. You know, and that was something that I found so ingenious.
Yes. Because it really is ingenious. I mean, and as they say, YouTube. I have found a video where you could have 1,000 pounds of sweet potato in a relatively small barrel.
Yes.
And it will grow out, and you just let that grow. I mean, my grandmother always had a herb garden in the yard. We grew up in Woodbrook, but we always had a herb garden. French thyme, basil, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of the other, some rosemary, some Spanish thyme, all these bay leaf, all of these things were just part and parcel of our garden. That, you know, if you were cooking, if Granny was cooking a chicken, she's sending me out to cut seasoning to season that chicken with live seasoning.
You know, you're not the modern child. You know, I was doing a retreat the other day, and I asked some children. I said, well, where do you get oranges? You know, they tell me Massy Foods. Massy Foods. I say, you never saw oranges on a tree? They tell me Massy Foods. I say, oh my goodness.
Then you ask them. That's where they get their oranges from, Massy Foods. That's where, you know, that's where they get them. we have to, we really have to encourage people back to a kitchen garden again as a minimum. And as a country, we must once again learn the technique of the prison of our ancestors, modernizing these techniques and focusing on increasing our local food production and our supply. So one of the things to say, well, you know, when we do all of this other kind of gardening, then the local foods is what suffer because we have seeds and things that come from all these others, but the local foods is what and the local items is what suffers on our garden. Well, no, we could do it differently than that.
Now, your granny was from Tobago. I saw you in your article. You talked about you used to go to Tobago and she took you out in the garden where you only picked some pigeon peas, some Tobago pigeon peas, and you had okra, dashing bush, and corn. Something like you had everything.
Well, you know, I was a child. Huh? We went by Auntie Ina, and we just kind of dropped in on her. And she said, well, you're staying for lunch. And Daddy said, no, we didn't plan to stay for lunch. Said, no, you have to stay for lunch. And he said, we didn't want inconvenience. He said, no inconvenience at all. Jason, come with me. Boy, listen to me now. Gone outside with Auntie Ina, and over the side here, we had pigeon peas. She said, all right, take this little basket, fill this with pigeon peas for me. I pick up the pigeon peas. So I go over here and pick the okra for me. So I pick some okra. Come over here, pick some corn. Come over here, cut some dasheen bush. Then, you know, dig over here. Then some root crop, get dig up. Some dasheen and thing get dig up. Then the next thing is we went to another part of the garden and she started to pick some thyme and basil and rosemary and all these other spices. And she put that in another little bucket. I looking on. She said, all right, now there's only one last thing we had to do. Come, help me catch that chicken. And she pointed the chicken, you know. Let me catch that chicken. Well, we catch the chicken, and he killed the chicken in 2 twos, feathered that chicken before you could believe it, and lunch was ready. You know? Lunch was ready. She was practicing food security long before people understood anything about food security at all.
Yeah, boy. You're bubbling your pot one time. You're bubbling your pot one time. No, those are important things. You talked about pigeon peas. I remember shelling pigeon peas. You know, Daddy sending you outside, you're picking your pigeon peas off the tree, and everybody sitting around, and everybody in the family shelling peas.
With a little wrong pan.
Yes.
And you're shelling your peas, and you're throwing the shells into another container. I remember the days when you had to pick your rice.
Wow. I never had to pick rice. I never saw that.
Now you just wasn't in the kitchen. But rice you had to lay it on a tray and pick out if they had stones or black pieces of rice or whatever it is, and you pick through your rice and then you put it in the wash it and put it to boil. But the point is that people were a lot more connected to their garden and relied a lot more on their garden for supplementing their diet. And I think that's the real point, that it is possible to have a garden where you could supplement a lot of your eating by what you could pick yourself and by what you could find yourself for the garden.
So what is your food security in Parish's project? Because I notice, you know, in the article, you're saying that a great opportunity is coming near you. So I know you're promoting something. A great opportunity is coming near you. That's the headline. Food security, everyone's concerned. A great opportunity is coming near you. What is our Archdiocese in alignment with Laudato Si? What is this food security in parishes project?
Let me ask you first, what do you grow in your garden?
I'm giving you everything. Because I'm just letting you know, I nearly brought it for this show. I have pimento peppers, I have shadow benny, I have tomatoes, I have okras, I have lettuce. That's in my garden alone, right? A couple of years ago, I put on some, I was talking to Cassie a little while ago. I put down some zabuka. I know that you modern people don't know what zabuka is. You all call it avocado. Well, it's zabuka for me, right? So I have some zabuka, I have Portugal, I have pomaracs, I have plums. So I just let you know, and I have a goatee that comes into my yard with his little friends to eat off the floor.
Wait. I thought you was a vegetarian.
No, I am a vegetarian. That's why he knows if he comes by
That's why the goatee coming by you.
That's why the goatee coming by me. He knows he's safe. He is safe.
Okay. I hear you. So in other words, you have been practicing food security also.
That's correct.
How did you learn to plant your garden?
I actually learned to plant my garden because my grandfather was the secretary of the Agricultural Association of Trinidad and Tobago for the North. And therefore, he loved to plant. And my brothers loved to plant. And I just love to do it. And also, I'd go by some partners of mine, Copper Garden, and they would tell me what to do. They would tell me how to, what kind of soil to plant it in. If the soil is too clay, if the soil is too, you need a little more sandy soil for this kind of crop. So you ask questions. And here what, fellas? ChatGPT is real good. Just go on to ChatGPT. Just go on to AI. It gives you that and YouTube. You could get all the information, any information that you need, go on to YouTube. They'll teach you how to plant anything.
Good. You see, what the Archdiocese wants to do is, you see what you're doing in your garden? We want every family doing that in their garden. And if we could do that throughout Trinidad and Tobago, we would have food security like you can't believe. Because what would then mean is we would then have a buffer between the grocery bill and your income to buffer that inflation that happens so constantly throughout the year. And what we're doing, the Archdiocese is in alignment with Laudato Si, and we have birthed this new project, Food Security in Parishes, FSIP. And what this process is doing, we started it in January this year, January 2023, and the project aims to train households in traditional agriculture and technology and do agriculture through this training process that we have already introduced. We already have a number of people already trained up, and we already have some of our gardens already started up.
What has been the community response been like? Have you been getting a positive feedback on the food security in parishes project?
We have been getting a good feedback from it. As we said, how many gardens we have done in how many different communities, and the number of people that have participated. But now we're going to a little more formal teaching. What we're saying is we're going to support the trained participants in crop production. We're going to assist with resources to get them going.
Wow.
We're going to provide a marketplace for the sale and enrichment and exchange of products. And by that, what we're saying is that, you might put down your hydroponic and you might be reaping one pile of lettuce today. You could only use some of it. But what to do with the rest? Well, we want to create spaces where people could bring their excess product and either barter or sell with others for other goods or services that they require. So we create a whole culture throughout the Archdiocese of food being exchanged, food being spoken about, food being cultivated, and becoming a hub around which we start building community again.
That's a great initiative. I remember some years ago when Father Leo Donovan was still here as our parish priest. We used to have the farmers of Cameron coming down to Pity Valley, St. Anthony's, and on a Saturday you would have a kitchen market. You would have a market, you know, and everybody from the community would come and buy. So you didn't have to go down to Central Market. You didn't have to go to anything like that because you would get all your vegetables, all your stuff from the Cameron Hills. Alice was amazing. She was the head of the Parish Pastoral Council and one of the main farmers up in Cameron. And it was just a fantastic way of getting the community together also, you know, because you're supporting community. Here you're buying from community. Wonderful initiative.
Yes. And that's kind of where we want to go, that people could start seeing, you know, this is what we could do. But even long before that, in a neighborhood, y'all could plan what you're planting so that everybody has a little bit of something, or between y'all together, y'all have enough to share around with each other. And we want to do some of that too. We also want to use some of the land that the church has and make it agricultural so that a group of people could mine a little garden within the parish and take that to the next place. We also want to imagine, like you might have a parish where you have some unemployed young people. And you say, all right, come, let's set up a little hydroponic space for you and give them that, let them pay you back while they're growing and they're earning and they're learning how. And when they've learned enough of how, then each of them in their own homes could set up a little hydroponic place, but they must learn how to do it first. Otherwise, they would frustrate themselves and the cost would be just too high. But we're going to support people with training. We're going to support with crop production. We're going to support by assisting with resources to get them going and provide a marketing for the sales and the exchange of products. The project focuses on 4 of the main sustainable development goals of the United Nations. And that's also important, that we're not, as you said in your report from CARICOM, we're not just doing this, it's a nice thing to do, but it's also something that is vital in terms of the planet and sustainability of our planet.
So what are those sustainable development goals that you were mentioning?
Well, the second sustainable development goal is zero hunger.
Wow. That's number 2.
I want you to imagine that every community has a breadfruit tree planted in a public space. How about that?
Hey, I'm a breadfruit man. I ate breadfruit twice for the week already, and today's Wednesday. Right. Wednesday.
So, but imagine if every community, especially we have poorer people living in our country, that we had a breadfruit tree planted in the public space where anybody could come and pick from that tree if you need. Of course, we're going to have people who are going to pick and go and sell. We're going to have all kinds of things happening. But a lot of what we will have happening is people sustaining or supplementing their food basket in the grocery by having another food source that they could pick from and make it work.
You talk about breadfruit. I just came back from Tobago where they had a breadfruit oil down. Listen, you'll suck your fingernail after you eat that breadfruit oil down. So zero hunger. And the men's group in Tobago, they were, you know, all of them supply the food right there No imported food,
Yes.
from
Yes.
Tobago.
Yes. Correct. The second is development goal is number 4, which is quality education. We've tested it in several of our schools, especially we have a school out in Central where we put in hydroponics, aquaponics, all kinds of things. And as I said before, the education process around that is amazing. Not just teaching the children how to do the hydroponics, aquaponics, or how to understand the chemistry behind it, or how to understand the crop cycle, or how to understand the maintenance of it, but also basic algebra, basic mathematics, addition and subtraction and division are all parts and parcels what you're doing in this. So it's also an amazing thing for education, because you can use this around education in our schools.
Sustainable Development Goal number 11.
Sustainable communities. Well, you know, one of the challenges when a community becomes a little too poor is the knock-on effect of its undermining itself happens very, very quickly. Really, really quickly. And why is that? Because, you know, poverty is not just about money, you know, it's about mindset, it's about opportunities, about able to leverage opportunities, it's about sacrificing for later, it's about all kinds of different things. But if you have communities, imagine in Trinidad you have communities where a lot of people are using their extra land within an agricultural process, where at the end of the week, you know, there is a place you could bring your excess crop to, where you could do the barter exchange market of the crop, where you can be blessed in your crop and your life on the big irrigation days and the feast days. You know, you start to have a sustainable community, because the community gets a hub, and the agriculture becomes a hub around the community.
And then you could go into food production. When I say food production, processing of the foods, and just to give you a for instance,
Yes.
I mean, I make pepper sauce. You know, I make seasonings. You know, so even in that, it's not just the fresh supply that comes down to you, but you can also go into food processing, like, you know, making of things like that, making of your jams and your jellies and so on. So agriculture could be. You spoke about getting, you know, some of the young boys involved who are not employed, involved in the projects too, you know, so that
they also have them involved in the processing after.
Correct.
Like if you have I know in Christmas with sorrel, my mother when she drew the sorrel to make the drink, she'd take the bush leaf and make it into a jam.
Yes.
So there are many different ways knock-ons you could use. My fourth development goal is life on land. That we have to rebuild the relationship between us and the land. That it is this wonderful gift God gave to us, and we have to see the land not just as there or something that we could rape or do at our women fancy. We have to see the land as part and parcel of the ecosystem that God has created us for, and the harmony with that land that we develop and grow.
So this food sustainable program, right, initiative that you want to have, what you're saying is that it aims to promote food production on a household level, encouraging small-scale agriculture for the household and assisting participants who wish to commercially produce crops. So you're moving here from not just, you know, this is for us to eat and sustain ourselves, but you're looking at to commercially produce crops in another phase.
Yes. And what we're also saying is that we're going to help people with the tools and the information needed to do all of that.
Right.
Because we want to start with the household. We want to move to the community. And so the parish level, some of our parishes, we have land that we could use. And sometimes in and around the parish compound, there's land that can be used. We want to put that together. And we want to help you to buffer the cost of your food bill. Because, I know the grocery bill just getting more and more and more. And sometimes from this week to that week, the bill has increased significantly for nothing new under the sun.
Yeah. So do you all have targets that you all are setting?
We haven't set targets as such. What we're starting with first is running courses.
Okay.
And we want to engage people and get you sign up for a course. Look at your Catholic News, you'll get all the information. Go on catholictt.org, you'll get the information. Sign up for a course. And even if it's just you at your home, that's all you just sign up for a course. And I'll talk about the things we will take you through in the courses that you will be doing. But just sign up for a course, because the more people we have doing the food production at the family level, at the house level, is it better for the whole nation. After that, we could then look at the community plots and how we work with that. After that, we could look at a more industrial production and work with that. But the first goal really is to get all of the families producing a little something every week. And the more you need supplementing your budget, the more production you should be doing, so that you have this way of going forward. I know a guy who has about 3 chickens, but he gains eggs every single day. He gives away eggs.
Yeah.
So there are little things you can do that can change your food basket and its price.
Well, no, everybody, I just want to let you all know, food security, everybody's concerned. Pick up your Catholic News, because Archbishop J goes into detail, right? Pick up your Catholic News, let your children read the Catholic News, share it with a family friend and so on. Let's start our food security program, in every single Catholic household. And I know people are watching us from other faiths and so on. That goes for everybody. Everybody is welcome. Get involved, in your own communities and so on. But I want to bring you back, because I know when I was reading this article, food security, everybody's concerned. You talked about FSIP project targets in the future. What are these project targets?
Yeah. Oh, that's achieving food security and sustainable at a household level.
Yeah.
Increasing food production in communities, promoting entrepreneurship and creating employment within the community, providing cost-effective goods and services to households, providing quality education and certification for participants, and promoting community development. Those are the 6 goals that we have running in the project.
So who are the representatives involved in this FSIP project?
Well, what we have is first, we have the project is hosted by the Archdiocese of Port of Spain. The Catholic News is involved in this. The Rainforest Agriculture Consultancy is also involved in this. The Archdiocese prioritizes food security in households and promotes good health and well-being, because we are body and soul. We're not just spirit, we are body and soul. And so good well-being requires us to be well-rounded and be able to sustain ourselves and our livelihoods.
I'm just letting you all know, Deacon Derek not only grows his own food with no chemicals, but guess what? It's healthier than all the sugar and things you see we eating and all these sweet foods. And this is good, healthy food. So the Archdiocese wants to promote good health. The Archbishop is telling you food security is everybody's concern. Good health.
It is.
Good health.
It is. Yes. Who can participate? Well, all members of the Catholic parishes are welcome to join. Everybody. But ultimately, we are aiming at promoting this program to all the households in Trinidad and Tobago. So anyone can join at any time. We are also encouraging the schools to pause for their vocation. We want to encourage children between 12 and 18 to participate. You know, sometimes you don't have a camp to send your child to. Well, what we are saying is we will be running courses during the August holidays. Put your child into a course and let them start a little garden at home. Our children are too locked into the screen, too locked into to the internet, too locked into themselves. Let this your July August project for your children is a little garden at home. Let them take the lead on it. Let them be part of the classroom and let them learn how to implement this in the spaces that you have around your house, and turn some spaces around into agricultural space. And it will be a wonderful thing for them to be part of the life cycle of planting and reaping. It will be amazing for them to put their hands into the earth and be doing things in the holiday time that are really earthy and grounding. And it would be really, really amazing for them to have time outdoors and not be locked indoors with a little screen and focus on things that are right, but not really life-giving.
So why is food security a concern for the Catholic Church? You've been talking about it, food security, everyone's concerned, but why the Catholic Church?
Well, that's because of Pope Benedict, you know. Well, from now, long before Pope Benedict. But let's start with it. Pope Benedict, in a document, God is Love, Deus Caritas Est. Here's what he writes. He says, the church is God's family in the world. In this family, no one ought to go without the necessities of life. Yet, at the same time, Caritas Agape extends beyond the frontiers of the church. The parable of the Good Samaritan remains as a standard which imposes universal love towards the needy whom we encounter by chance. That's Luke 10:31. Whoever they may be. So what the Holy Father is saying is that, you know, the church is God's family in the world, and this family, no one should be going without what is required. And at the same time, our love must extend beyond the boundaries of our church to the people who we encounter, even by chance. He goes on to say, without in any way distracting from this commandment of universal love, the church also has a specific responsibility within the ecclesial family that no member should suffer through being in need. The teaching of St. Paul's letter to the Galatians is emphatic. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all, and especially to those who are of the household of faith.
Wow. Well, you have to give me a key message after all of this. What is your key message for food security, everyone's concern?
Food security is everyone's concern. We can all contribute if we learn how to grow food in our gardens and to supplement our food bills. This also ensures we have enough to share with neighbors in our community and amongst our family.
Action step.
Action step. On your Catholic News, there's a QR code. Use it. Just point your phone camera at the QR code on your Catholic News and register online for the courses on food security. And encourage your family and your friends to register and begin the great adventure. You could also go to Catholic TT, where you'll find information about the food security and registration.
Scripture reading.
Matthew 25. I was hungry, I was naked, I was thirsty, and you either did or didn't do for me. We just have to help people to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, and to help people in all that they need.
Well, Archbishop J, we need you to bless us now. We need a blessing for food security. Everybody's concerned. Good conversation.
Father, we ask, oh God, that you give us every grace that we need, that we will be what we can for your people and open our way for all of our people to participate and to grow food together, to share and to learn to be a more caring community with each other. We ask your blessings upon those who are doing and running this project through Christ our Lord.
Amen. Amen. Don't forget, pick up your Catholic News. We're on Thursday night at 8 o'clock, and we're on later Thursday nights again and on Sunday. God bless you, everybody. 95.5.